I want to welcome you, but I also, you know, there's a lot going on in our leadership at home and inside of ourselves and at home and in the world and in our nation and globally. And it's a wild ride. There's a ride at Disneyland called Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And I feel like we're on that right now, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Um, and hi, Debbie. Hi, Annette. Um, and so I wanted to talk, and you have so much leadership experience. And yes, I mean, not only in your home, but also in, I think as a child, your father was a diplomat, right? And so even as a child, I'm sure you were witnessing like how to do things diplomatically and how to, create safe environments and, um, yeah, how to be together in a way where everybody can be together, you know? And so I wanted to talk with you about this, and I wanted to hear your voice about your thoughts about the three. There's a couple of things I'm thinking of. One of them is like the three temptations of leadership, right? There's these three temptations. Um, and the three temptations of leadership, one of them is power. And I think we're seeing gross, I mean, for certain, we are seeing a gross misuse of power, 110% seeing a gross misuse of power. And um, in my barber mom taught me that it's like called power sickness. And like it's a sickness that comes. And then there's the Angela Zarian, one of my mentors. She shared this with me that the three temptations that you have to be very careful of are money, sex, and power. And that when we're in leadership, those three things are going to show up. And you can expect that they will show up and that they will try to take you off course and off track. And so I wanted to talk about the three temptations, but I also, um, and I know we've both seen a lot of this, but I also wanted to acknowledge that you've done a lot of work with women, with the Roots Project and helping the women through some of the most difficult things any human being can experience. Um, and so I just wanted to hear from your heart about, how we can come together, how we can address these three temptations, and what are your thoughts at this time and what you're noticing?
Mm. I'm noticing that I'm on that toad ride.
You know, the toad ride.
Toad ride going all
Mm.
over. Um, we are in a wild ride, and it's also familiar,
Mm.
new. As you were speaking, I was feeling my heart, and when we had that time together, that class yesterday, one of
Mm.
the for me was that my heart is my guide.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't always use my heart. I didn't always use my heart. So sometimes I ignored my heart,
Mm.
and it was easier to get lost and also feel pain. So with that in mind, my heart became my guide in terms of knowing and feeling what was right for me,
Mm.
building my values, building my principles,
Mm.
following my dream. Um, so that's one thing. And then constantly checking in. So the constant checking in, I think, really, really helps. I think maybe I'll talk about my dad in a minute. who was a career diplomat, um, because he taught me a lot about leadership, also humility and openness to learn. And he also, scolded me once well, a few times.
Just once.
A few times. One was when we had a driver. So I'm talking about my dad right now, not later also, but he talked about, we had he had a driver, and he would pick us up from school. And one time he didn't. I don't know why, but I was really irritated because I really wanted to come home and needed to come home, or I had something. I don't know. But when I arrived home, I was really angry with him and I started shouting at him.
Mm.
And my dad could hear from his bedroom.
Oh,
And
wow.
he goes, "Don't you ever, ever talk to him or anyone like that again."
Wow. And yes.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I'm not saying that I haven't done it,
Mm.
like, but it always comes back to me when I do something like that. And now I'm so much better. Right? But he mentioned to me that, first of all, that he's a grown man and he's working and he's doing his job, right?
Yeah.
And another time was, actually, he was scolding someone else. But this person was talking about another group, a militant group that was using violence to gain power.
Mm.
And it was very brutal violence. So it
Mm.
was of a rebel group that was, doing horrible things to civilians, um, to gain control. And this person had said, "I don't know. I don't think these people are human." And so then my dad was like, "What do you mean? They're as human as you and me."
Oh my God. Ugh.
So in that moment, I kind of just looked at both of them and I thought, wow, it's true actually, because we're capable of all. And we can misuse power and leadership in many, many ways. Um, but I wanted to talk about also my work with the women, the Roots Project. So the Roots Project is an organization that I started when I was very young, younger, and about 16 years ago. I had just, I was working in the UN just for a few years. I saw a lot of things. I was tired of writing human rights reports. I felt everywhere I went, the situation was pretty much the same.
Mm.
Uh, poverty, abuse, vulnerability, therefore violence and rape and abuse and all of that. So, and I was really focused on women's issues, So I thought, okay, maybe we can create a way for women who've never been to school to have work and be able to provide for their kids and all of that.
Mm.
But this whole idea was very simple, but it was too simple, right? And so it was harder than I thought.
Mm.
So we were doing traditional beadwork as a mode of gaining an income. And because the women didn't have trust and also didn't have, an idea that this could be something that would last, they just, got the money and spent it immediately. And
Mm.
most thing or whatever else, that was not so great. Party, I don't know what they did with it, but
Smoking, partying.
so I would arrive to this village where the women would have been sitting there and just taking care of their kids, and like everybody would be drunk because they suddenly got money, right?
Yes.
From selling the beads. And so then I thought, wow, this is crazy. So let's create, have a space. Maybe they can come and then we can have like
Mm.
a conduct. And that started to happen. And so when they came, things started to change. But we had different levels of leadership, right? We had women were really great leaders who had to mentor and monitor the other women. So we'd have the managers versus the main artisans. And then sooner or later, the manager started to, you know, love their power. No, I'm not going to give you beads. You've already had your beads.
Oh my gosh. What?
Don't talk
Oh.
to, so it started to come like that. And I was traveling a lot. So I'd leave and I'd come back. And then all the women would say, we are having a problem with this manager. She's horrible. She's doing this and she's doing that. So then I would be like, managers, you're only here to support the members, the women, the artisans. If they don't create, you wouldn't have a job, right?
Yeah.
So then they would be like, oh yeah, okay, fine. And then the power shifts to the women, to the
Right.
artisans.
Yeah.
And next, I leave and I come back and the artisans are bullying the managers,
Oh no.
right? So
Oh,
it just
no.
back and forth. And it was like, it was really a labor of presence and kind of just like, understanding that
Mm.
w- we do this and we need to be very mindful.
Mhm.
And then I think also when we check in with ourselves that, we put that thing at risk, the thing that we're trying to lead at risk, you know? And so we've been doing that sort of back and forth until now we've really landed in a place where, you know, the leadership changes,
Mm.
but there's power everywhere with the artisan, with the managers. So now we're able to work and make
Mm.
a lot of production, and everyone can see that one work feeds into the other, and without the other, the other doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we're all basically, benefiting from this common way of working. And so it's I feel that if I just left it,
Right.
without the constant reminders of where things were,
Mm.
that it festered like everything else,
Mm.
and yeah, so that's sort of like what came up for me in this moment, just about different levels of leadership, right? We haven't even talked about top leadership or military leadership or all of these other things, but
Mhm.
this whole leadership thing exists everywhere,
Yeah.
you know, homes, as a parent, I abuse my power. No, you cannot do this. You cannot, but at the same time, it's like, where does discipline come? Where does leadership guidance come? Where does, our own wounds sort of show,
Mm.
you know, and our fears? So there's a lot of things going
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
um,
That's so true.
that give rise to all these temptations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because in one of my mentors, Angela Zarian, she talks about the three powers of leadership. And so as I'm listening to him, like, oh, there's the power of communication, like skillful communication and, you know, how am I communicating? How is my timing? How is my content? How is my context? Are those things, is this a good time for this conversation? Or, we can screw up communications in all kinds of ways, but we can also have great communications in all kinds of ways. The other is presence. There's two more. Presence, the power of presence, like the ability to be present and to show up where we are. And then there's also the power of position, which it sounds like was what you were kind of running into with some of the women is just, oh, my position, like they were all, kind of getting into their positions, and into power sickness, right? Just like instead of saying, I'm let's be approachable to one another. let's serve one another, let's help one another, and so I think that, and I mean, I had the holy privilege of being with you, and I remember we went to, one of the places where there was a group of women doing beads, and I think I was laughing about something, and they were like, "We wanna laugh like that." And then we went in and we did a laughing meditation with the women, and it was just this incredible experience of, I mean, laughter just evens everything. That all the playing fields are just dun da da, like, oh, now we're just laughing, we're just laughing together, and we want to have that laughter. And you did the great meditation with the holding your belly, and it was so great. And so I think that, I was just wondering, like, what are some of the things that you applied? So truth telling, communication, clearly, being present. How did you create the shift?
Well, truth telling was something, again, I was just following my heart, you know, like
Yeah.
people will come, oh, this person, she said this and she did this and she did that. And then I'll, speak to the other person, but like, no, I didn't. I said this and I said that and they did this and they did that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
time for this. So I'd bring them both together and I'll say, tell me what happened, you know,
Mm,
talk about what happened. Sometimes they got really like, you know, shocked, I think,
mm,
because typically, you would believe one person or another. But in that way, I was really able to understand what was going on and
mm,
um and then get them to kind of figure it out, you know. And I was also there listening to my heart and saying, okay,
mm,
you know, we can do. Um and and it worked, and it didn't take long. It really didn't take long because in 16 years, I have been physically present at the center for only 3 years.
wow.
So the time I was in and out, but, and I kept telling them, I have a role. I have a role. People will start fighting each other over beads. There's not enough beads. And she's given more beads to her tribal member and she doesn't like her, so also conflict, like points of conflict. And then I would come and say, have you ever seen this person raise money to buy beads? Have you ever seen them going shopping for beads? I was like, the bead crisis is mine. I'm the one providing the beads and
Mhm,
raise enough money. I haven't been able to buy enough so that everyone can work and be able to earn.
mm,
You know, really spreading the responsibility and shifting the blame, and saying and admitting, right?
yeah,
Where I was short and then they would admit, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have said this. Um, and also sitting there, many things happened at the center in all of these years.
mm,
We lost our building, our center.
mm,
We we had a war, we went through war. And the interesting thing about this war is that it affected everybody almost equally.
mm,
And also in some aspects as well, some people a little bit more than others in terms of the areas that they lived became war zones and they couldn't live there anymore. And so they were able to take shelter in community members who they otherwise would never have known.
mm,
People live in community with their own community members as neighbors because we don't have trust. We didn't have
mm,
trust, right?
yeah.
So all of these things helped the women realize that there are so many stereotypes about this culture and this tribe and these people and stories as well.
Mm,
Able to really be able to grow in understanding how the world actually is working
mhm,
badly, right? But it's like it's working because we respond to gossip. It works because it's working in this way because we respond to negativity,
Mm.
and we don't seek the truth, and we don't, think or feel compassionately. You
Mm.
know, and sometimes, even when you think compassionately, it may not be true. The reason,
Oh, I'm being so compassionate. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's also usually not true when you think the worst of somebody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Because everyone is made up of everything, as you said initially. Like we're all made up of everything. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if they're made up of everything, but
Oh,
but we are. It's true. We are.
sorry, I'm having a technical issue.
Oh, yes.
My battery is running low.
Oh, can you plug it in?
I can plug it in, but it's going to take me a minute just to run and get the thing.
Yeah. Yes, you can. I can
Okay.
I can share while you do that. Make it happen, babe. So we're talking about uh, the three powers. We're talking about the three powers of leadership, which are presence and communication and position. And it's just good to think about, you know, what are how do I show up? How do I um, place my power? Where do I put my energy? And how can I come into the ability to receive feedback and to resolve conflicts? Conflicts are one of the only constants. We can count on that. That's one of the things that my beloved mentor shared with me. And so, how do we work with conflict? Um, how do we resolve? How do we resolve things when there is an issue or when there's a disagreement? And so, really enjoying what Anyieth is saying about that capacity and that ability um, to create open lines. To create open lines between people. And um, another thing that's really interesting is to think about is just how pretending never works and how we can always sense how people really feel about us. Uh, and maybe we don't necessarily want to be really honest about how we feel about other folks and how they are being with us. But one of the most important things is that we're able um, to not censor and hide. It's important that we're not teaching secrecy. And I think that we're seeing that now in so many ways, but that we can be open and honest about our thoughts and our feelings and our experiences and that we have like a fullness of expression. I think is of, is of the essence. Uh, and sounds like she's got her cord back. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, you did it.
I
Hey,
did.
hey. This is like a whole technology thing, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe I will also be sideways now.
Maybe. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Balance it on the core on the little thing, or if you have, like, a little cup or something there that you can maybe yeah, that's another option sometimes. It's
Oh,
so
so
funny. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
great.
You did it. Maravilloso. Maravilloso, my friend.
Great. Like
Mhm.
going down fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay. So, I was just ta and so I was just when you were, out and about, I I was talking about, a little bit, about the work of the three powers and the power of presence and the power of communication and then asking just like where are we putting our power? Where are we placing our power? How do we even know what power is? Do we even know what it is? I don't even know that people actually know what it is. Um, but I just see it as life force and life energy and you know, uplifting life energy and life force, or depleting or diminishing, or right, um, closing life force. Like it's like we're opening it or we're closing it or constricting it. So it's like that like constriction. So yeah, and you were sharing a story about that, right? And about like people opening to each other, and so I have curiosities about, um, there's just so much happening right now, and I talked a little bit about how pretending never works.
Mm,
Like it never works when we act like we can always tell when
yeah.
someone is not down with us or doesn't like us, right? Or if they do like us, we can feel that. But it's so interesting how we'll pretend. We'll fake like, you know what I mean? Like it,
Yeah.
that's so interesting to me. But you know, you told me a story earlier about an experience that you had on the rail.
Mm.
That was really interesting.
Oh, I had an experience on the light rail today,
Mm.
and there was a man sitting behind me. He was sleeping. I got on the train, and he was sleeping. And soon after, the conductor came on and said, "I'm going to start looking at tickets, and I'm going to start over there." And so woke him up, and they started chatting, and it was quite pleasant, and it was kind of, you know, I felt it was compassionate because she was like, "Yeah, I understand you're tired and everything. Just want to make sure you don't miss your stop." And he said, "Oh yeah, I think I did miss my stop." And he woke up, and so anyway, so he gave her the card, and she booped it, and then it was kind of like not really showing where it was, and he was starting to get off, and then she just shouts and says, "You didn't do it," or "You didn't," but her thing was still kind of like loading. I don't know if she had the facts. I
Right.
don't know, but he said, "Oh, didn't it? Are you sure?" And then he tried to come back, then the doors opened, then he left, and then she said something else, and then he started getting annoyed. So he took his back, and he had like a military backpack and another big backpack, and he put it down in between the doors. And so she started saying, "You can't block the doors, you can't block the doors." And he was like, "But I want to show you my card. I want to show you my card. Here it is. Here it is. Try it again. Try it again." And she was like, "I can't," because it was still
Oh
loaded.
gosh.
And so it just felt like the aggravation was there. I don't know if it was necessary. Uh, the part came that when she said when he got off, he left. And then so the other people from the light rail started to get on. One person got on, one person was outside. And then she asked him, she said, "Did you see what he was wearing? Because I'm gonna call the police." And that one was, was when I was getting off. My stop was coming up, and I got up and I was like, "Don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
do that."
Uh,
You know, I was like, "You can see he wasn't okay, and it's not your fault, but don't do that. You don't
yeah.
need to do that." And she was smiling at me,
Mhm.
um, but she was still on the phone. And so as I was getting off and I was waiting for my stop, the other person from the light rail was just kind of sitting there, and I started talking with him as well. But but that's kind of like I think that's where we are. Every day we get to choose what we do with our power. Every
Mhm.
moment what we do with our power. And she didn't have to do that. And then he says to me, "Oh, now we have to write a report. I hate writing reports." And I was like, "You see, you should write a report on." And then he was like, "But sometimes we get good, nice people like you."
Oh,
So you need to write a report about that. And he's like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense.
Oh my
You
Oh
know,
my God. If only that was the thing that made sense, right?
I know, right? That's the thing. It's like,
Mhm.
always focus on the negative,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, that we've convinced ourselves that it doesn't make sense to highlight what's good. Because if you watch the news, and that's my husband, Tim, he said that the other day. He was like, is there anything else, anything good that comes in the news? It's always just these crazy things, rarely something good. Like something has to be spectacular, you know,
Right.
a
Right.
spectacular take.
Like the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, for instance.
Yeah,
Not to bring that into the conversation.
yes, then we have this distorted view of the world that everything always terrible. But, we have to also assess whether, for her, for example, like I would invite her to feel in her heart,
Mm,
felt during, after, and if she called the police, how does she feel after? Does she feel yeah? Or does she feel like, you know,
yeah.
and constantly understanding how do you sleep
Yeah.
after a specific incident? How do you sleep after you've said certain things in anger or
Mm,
frustration? And I've had that experience very recently, as
mm.
recently days ago.
Oh my
Uh,
God. Your late husband.
yeah,
Perfect
but
example. Mhm.
yeah, and it's like you can feel that you're really right, but it's like it's not always the thing, right? And
Yes.
sometimes bridges can be burnt and you can't rebuild them. So you have to know what you can and can't, you know, rebuild. What power do you have to return things to their original state? Um, so yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
that we need to be very creative in
Mm,
because sometimes I think we kind of like do things, we do leadership in ways that we think, oh, we know how to do leadership. It's like, do we? I don't
mm,
think we do. Do we really? And what does it mean? Because if you look at the big leadership, like in my country, oh my goodness, my country in South Sudan, the mornings are terrible because you have the president, we have five vice presidents because there's no trust in the country, right? So
uh,
you have this vice president from this culture, this vice president from there, and this with this political party and that with that political party. Five vice presidents. We have the Speaker of the House. We have the military, the Minister of Defense. We have the Minister of the Interior. We have the Governor
mm,
of State, where the capital is, and I'm sure there's one more person I'm forgetting. That drive around with sirens and a huge entourage of security cars, right? So in this little tiny city, you just have like noise and terror, and everyone is armed to the teeth,
mm,
you know, super fast and very aggressively. And it just seems like it's
mm.
a lot of and a lot of pain, even for them, and a lot of worry,
Yeah.
right? A lot of anxiety for people because sometimes you hear sirens and then you see a car, like a whole entourage coming, on the left and then another on the right. And then and then they pass and you're like, oh, that's it. But there's one behind you,
Um,
So the thing is like, and so you can't listen to music when you're driving
mm,
because if you don't hear them, you're in trouble.
wow.
Right. So it's like, what kind of power is this? What kind of joy is this?
Mm,
What right? Where is the joy? Where's the peace? Where is the
mm,
humility?
mm,
So it's like I think we need to be more not back to the drawing board. We have a lot to learn from, but actually, put it out there and learn because we're in a cycle that's kind of happened before.
Yeah.
study all histories and different histories and things like that. But it's like when my daughter, who was in fifth grade, came to me and said, "Can you help me with my homework?" I was like, "Okay, what are you studying?" She was like, "Alexander the Great," and I was like, "Oh my God,
No.
are we still talking about conquering the world?"
Come on. Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
is more, and where is it going to take us?
Yeah.
We are right now, right?
This is where we are. The conquerors, it's like everybody wants to have, it's like like all the power. And it's, yeah, it's this, those temptations, like, oh, all the power. You can't just have your own. Like you have your own. Everybody has it. And it's so great. Everybody has their own, you know?
Right.
And then to share it so that we can really serve the greater good, serve the greater whole, which is what you're doing in your work, um, and which I admire so much. But I think, there's something really, the healing of the women, and also that there were tribes that were at war that you worked with. And how did you get these different women to come together and work together? I mean, that were initially not even willing to be in the same, you know, like
Yeah.
within a. Of each other. Um, I'm curious about the women and yeah, your work with them.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was the common thread, which was beadwork
Mm-hmm.
in all our cultures. Um,
Oh, the
and
common thread. I love that. The common thread.
uh, and we didn't actually know what each culture does. I didn't know when I started it because in human rights, I mean, the so human rights was beautiful for me as well. But I left because of the power in some ways,
Mm,
so it gave me access to so many parts of the country that I'd never ever, I mean, I'd never been to South Sudan until I was 27 years old.
mm,
I just heard beautiful stories that didn't quite compute. It did in terms of what it looked like and in the culture, in the way the people were, in the beauty of the land. Um, but yeah, so I traveled a lot and I loved it. I loved
mm,
there's a Fareed with like all these big, huge black mountains, kind of surrounding it. It was kind of like made me think of Montenegro, even though I've never been there. But
mhm,
like a place surrounded by mountain, and it was so beautiful. Yay, that's like, you wake up in the morning and it's foggy and it's the soil is so fertile. There's like
mhm.
pineapple growing street. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah,
And it's so and a place called Maridi, the land is like red, soil is red, and
I
the trees
love
are
that.
green, and the contrast is
Mm.
like easing. And it rains so much, and when it rains, people just stand there, you know,
Mm, so great. That's so great.
they're not phased by the rain. They just stand there and keep talking. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Awesome.
And other places you run away, but and other places like in Bor with the Sud, that's a great big freshwater swamp, just amazing. And then the people. The people wore a lot of traditional clothes, beadwork, things I'd never seen before. And so
Mhm.
when where'd you get these beads? Where can I buy these beads? I'll say, no, 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 this is my own. And
Mm,
I myself or my mother makes them for me or whatever it is. And then at the same time, people were living in poverty,
mm.
right? Struggling with basic things. So it was like a way for me to do something selfish because I love beads.
Yes.
And also to provide, to have this common thread amongst the different tribes. And it's beautiful because the thing that first let them be curious was, what kind of beads do you do? What kind of beads do you do? Because
Yeah.
And there's no documentation of them. There was not anything.
Wow.
Like, and received were the last beads that I knew about. So if a woman came from a new tribe and she made the stuff, it was the first time all of us were seeing it,
Oh,
you know, and we all lived in complete ignorance of each other.
wow.
This tribe is that tribe is like that, you know, and people don't travel, actually,
Mm,
kind of like here in many, many places, I think,
mm,
you know, people live in the country, they don't travel, they don't, so people didn't travel to know, but they just hear stories and they
mm.
stories. So that was one way to kind of, bring the curiosity. But the most of
Curiosity, I think, yeah, that's key.
when just things happened, you know, loss of life, like the war sort of everyone was the same. People had lost people had experienced just crazy things, and everyone could see that we were the same. Everyone was the same,
Mm,
you know.
mm.
Uh, and then you start feeling for another person and the things that they were experiencing. And they became sisters, you know.
Mm.
At, at the height of the war, tribalism was really, really intense because it was a tribal war, actually, between two tribes. One, my tribe, and the other is the second biggest tribe. So my tribe is the biggest, the Dinka,
Mm,
versus the Nuer tribe.
mm,
The tribe of the president, who was Dinka, and the tribe of the vice president, who's Nuer. And it was terrible. And actually, we started working with women from the Nuer tribe. Most of them went and lived in UN camps for safety, real, because they were, saving themselves from true and clear and present danger. And I went there. I went there to visit them.
mm,
What I started working with, and everyone told me, "Don't go in there. It's very dangerous. It's very
mm.
dangerous."
Interesting.
Somehow, one of my colleagues came and said, "Oh, we're at camp. You want to come?" And I was just like, "Okay." And I didn't think about it.
You're like,
Someone switched my mind off, and I went into automatic, and I put everything in my bag, and I didn't think twice. And I went into the car and I sat there until I was too far to say, "Take me back."
oh,
And we,
wow.
and at the time, people were getting killed in the camp from my tribe because people by the state, you know. So it was really dangerous.
Mm,
And I met the women, and it was so beautiful.
mm.
So beautiful. They were like, "We're so happy to see you here." Um, that they didn't know that, I had started this organization, but, that they were together, even though they're from the same tribe, it brought them together to do
Oh,
something.
God.
Right? And it was more healing than just sitting around thinking about all they had lost. So then they could share their
Mm.
loss with each other and kind of, and one of the one of the kids of one of the women said, "I can see a difference in my mom,
Oh,
so she needs to continue doing this."
mm.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And I left, and then I started to think. I was like, "Oh my god, it was very dangerous for me to go there."
Yeah.
Hours. I was there for like 3 or 4 hours.
And your heart.
Yeah, and I talked to every single woman, and I think it was important for them that I went in there to be with them,
Yeah.
you with all that was going on in the country. But the roots became a place where you didn't have so much tribalism. You didn't have any tribalism. You didn't have people sat together and all of that.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
beads together, like, I remember, um, you know, all the women from all the different tribes all sitting making beads together, and, like, Tabita made me those beautiful earrings, and this
Mhm.
I'm wearing this. This is the first, I think this is the first piece you ever gave me
Oh, I love it.
on my
Yes,
boat.
that's from the Shilluk tribe.
Oh,
Yeah, and Etha, she's from the Murule tribe, and her tribe, my tribe, traditionally wore a lot until now.
mm,
Very bad relations between the two tribes, but
mm.
we've been for a long, long time.
Yeah,
And mm, and that's the thing, you know. Now it's time for us to use our power, you know, for the rest of the country. Because we're strong, but you know, of course, I'm also like a cautious leader. So,
oh, you're
you know, how are we gonna do
a
that?
wild thing, honestly.
Yeah, but it is a concern. And the women have wanted to do this at times. You know, they're like, oh, you know, we work together, we've been together for so long, our tribes are fighting in the village. Maybe we can do something, maybe we can go talk to our people, you know, and I think that they can.
Yeah,
I believe that they can.
they can.
And I'd love to support them in doing that and going with them and things like that, you know, because it's not like it's taking us anywhere, you know,
No,
warring together, fighting together.
it doesn't
Again,
work.
it doesn't work and it never will.
Yeah.
You know, it's like in a country like South Sudan, which got its independence from war and fighting, some people really believe that, yeah, you know, the gun. So, you know, the US is all, you know, gun nation, South Sudan as well.
Mm,
You know, we got our independence through the bullet,
mm,
but they also sacrificed so much more.
mm.
They lost so much more. And they didn't, you know, because what we think we gained is just ash. You know, we have a nation that doesn't
Thank you,
function.
Gabe. It's just ash.
You know, we have a nation that doesn't function. We have people who don't trust each other. We have leadership that, you know, nobody trusts, nobody believes,
Mm,
and and there's no joy in the country because people suffer, and
mm.
people die, you know,
Yeah.
a lot, and
Mm.
yeah, and dreams go there to die. That's the thing.
Wow.
And there's people, and we've lost a lot of people. I've lost so many friends. I've lost a lot of relatives. Um, and it's heartbreaking. But there is a difference between seeing a video or a picture of the women versus seeing a picture or video of other people in community, even my family,
Mm,
in how they look and sort of the energy that they're bringing out, you know, because there's stability, and the stability is in like, you you know what leadership looks like, you know what work you're going to get, you know what the values, what the principles are, you know your own value, you
mm,
know,
yeah.
and certainty in those ways are also kind of important within all the uncertainty of the things that happen as they happened,
Yeah.
right? um and that's really helped. So I feel like there are models out there, not just the roots also, but like many, many models of how it can really work, you know,
Mhm.
how we don't go into these temptations. So also when I was working at the UN, the thing that happened was that I had a badge that would get me anywhere. It would get me to government offices, it would get me to prisons and police detentions, it would get me to hospitals, it could get me anywhere in the country to be able to go and see whatever I needed to see to monitor human violations. And somehow it also got to my head, right?
Mm,
And about human rights also is that it makes you very righteous.
mm,
And um, and so that was one of the reasons that I had left, is that I felt too I was young,
mm.
and I was also very I don't know, arrogant.
I don't know. Arrogant?
But yeah,
So
You you
just an
end up
yeah. Mhm.
you
Agree.
have the Geneva. You are armed with the Geneva Conventions,
Yeah.
and everyone said these are the universal human rights, and this is right and this is wrong, and you know it and you feel it, and every human feels it as well. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those conventions or those rights,
Yeah.
but it's in the application or in the understanding the context that those laws and those work, you know. Um,
Yeah.
somehow that's the problem with the UN. That's the problem with all these organizations, not all, I don't know all, but with the organization, with, I'll just say the UN, because it's a very big organization that tried to do a big thing, but it didn't manage it. 80 years later, it's kind of, I don't know, dying, let's say,
Mm.
slowly.
Mm.
Uh, because everything is being undone anyway.
Yeah.
Invading a country and stealing the president, you know, that was one of the things, the right to sovereignty and
Right.
and and protection of borders. Otherwise, Hitler like going
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
like
Bad news bears. Yeah. Super
you
bad.
know and it's whatever the reasons, they're just certain principles.
Yeah.
And then once we go, but also we get to realize that everything is just discretionary,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
the UN also did not quite embody those human rights principles because we have to practice what we're trying to what we're putting in place. We
Yes.
can't go talking to people and saying, you need to treat people equally. You need to, you know, we need to, people have the right to education, or people have the right to civic, and civil rights
Mhm.
without actually giving people those rights,
Right.
you know? So, like, look at the way the elections go here. You have to have a lot of money to even consider it, right? So that's already not quite democracy, right? You have to do in other places, it's the same. Um, I came here to the US also as part of civil society during the war. And one thing that somebody from, I think it was USAID, and as well as State Department, we were talking about the leadership, and we were thinking like the leadership of South Sudan has failed. We need to have
Mm.
opportunity to have, other leadership, other leaders. And they would say, well, if this person and this person can't be the leaders, who will be? And
Ah.
I don't know.
Mm.
Just to tell you, would that really be democracy?
Right.
With the space for things to happen, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
But otherwise, we're just talking
Yeah.
about the world should be and these principles. We're not really putting them in action. And the UN is the same. It discriminates a lot within
Mhm.
uh, sexual exploitation and abuse, a lot of different things, a lot of things within that don't quite fit um, what it's trying to do. And so therefore it will not work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
There
That's
has to do it's like one of the things that I have a little, um I have something to hand out to my students at the end of the year, like, am I aligning with my values? Like, here's all these values, and I state that these are my values, but, where do you see me aligning with them? Where do you see me not aligning with them? Right? So it's like we need, to be able to be receptive to, and amenable and approachable to perspectives and views and, people to mirror our blind spots and, but also it sounds like these aren't blind spots. These are like choosing to turn,
yeah.
and and I think that's one of the things that we're running into now here and everywhere, of course. But where it's just a blind eye, a blind eye, a blind eye, and not paying attention and not, expressing our feelings, our outrage, our joy, our sorrow, our grief, our gratitude. Like, we're just not fucking expressing anything anymore, And I think there's just like, I think I said it like, it's like we're in a zombie phase. Like,
Oh, yeah.
to be so into like vampires. It used to be a thing and lots of books and movies about that. And that was, I don't know, a while back, 20 years back. Now we're in zombie town. You know what I mean? We're no longer it's extracting the blood out of everything, but we still are. But because we're not in a democracy, because we're actually in a, capitalistic society and not in a democracy. Um, it is now it's the zombie to get the thing, to create more zombies, to get the thing, to create more, you know.
This time,
Yeah.
the blood and the soul.
Yeah, the blood and the soul. Yeah. And so how, that song comes to my mind. I won't sing right now, but you know, what, and I agree with you that we can, what we can do is we can stop, we can breathe, we can, you know, pay attention to what we value, align with those values, talk to each other, and, create meaning and, uh, yeah, and also notice like what is not working and talk about it. Talk about what's not working so we can find something that will. Um, so I'm just wondering, my friend, about, honor and respect. Like, how can we, I mean, with all the things that the UN is not effective with, for a long time, it was effective in many ways. Um, and in certain ways, but at least teaching people how to have new kinds of conversations or, ancient ways of talking to each other that were creating some positive results. But it's interesting that it's shifted and now there's, like you said, it's like dying. It seems to be dying. Um, but how do we inherent dignity, I think, is in the very first paragraph, right? Of of the of the charter, right? And so it's how do we even, like, what does that even mean? And how do we, you know,
What
how
was
do,
the word you said?
inherent dignity,
Inherent dignity. Yeah.
respect the inherent dignity of all people, the humanity, all people. And how can we restore some dignity or honor or respect, the extensions of honor and respect, or feelings of kinship? That's what I'm curious about right now. And, and how can we restore community or the idea that it's even a good idea to be in a group of people? You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah.
Uh, Inherent dignity.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's hard. It's hard in a world where some people feel better than others,
Oh yeah.
right? But the thing is, it's like, do they really? Like you and yourself in your darkness,
Right.
do people who are powerful really feel that they're that powerful or they're that great? Or is it, like you say, an act, a pretense,
Right.
to push it, to force it, to, you know, and the work that goes into it. But all of us are inherently beautiful and unique and have a lot we bring and a lot to learn and a lot to to do. And we have, all of us, um great power,
Mm,
because when someone does something terrible, I'll feel it.
mm,
And what do you choose to do with the power you have?
yeah.
You- And some people may not know how to use it for good, like people who go and shoot a bunch of random people, you know, but they're powerful, and we need to acknowledge all people all
Yeah.
the time. I think that's important. I think it's important in all our capacity. That's also a power, use of power. Power when you see someone not looking great or not feeling great, to be able to, you know, give them some of your power, share some of your power
Mm,
in that, so that they can realize how powerful they are, and what they can do with their power, right? Because when that person that you ignored, that you mistreated, that you talk badly to goes around and uses their power in a negative way, you're gonna feel it.
yeah. Yeah. And that's like turning against our own community,
Yeah.
and those words they're little impacts, you know? They're
Yeah.
they can be they can be blossoms or stones.
Yeah. You know, and I think that yeah, we have all the power. We have all of that. And inherent dignity. So within, like the roots as well, I work with women who we would call disadvantaged, you know, women who never went to school, who never had an opportunity to get, you know, formal sorts of training, but they have training in life, they have training in, whatever it is that they have experienced, and a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
You know, I've learned a lot from them. Like,
Mm.
one of the women came here to Seattle, and went to Santa Fe. She was invited as a master beater,
Mm.
2012, and it was amazing because I don't know where we were, and she was yeah, so she was sitting making the beads. I wasn't there, but I think Tim was there because I couldn't have been there because I was like almost having my baby.
Ah.
And um, so everyone was telling her, smile, smile. And people are coming, and she would sit there and then smile. And then she said to Tim, big people do not smile for no reason.
Oh my god, I love it! Oh,
Basically it translates to like elders don't smile for no
yeah,
reason. But it's just like it's not a display thing, right? Like
nice.
it's not, you just go, hello.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. It's like
and also she was so funny because she'd be like, it was really hard to feed her because she didn't want to eat a lot of the food. She was like, I don't know what that is. I can't tell what that is, and therefore I will not eat it.
wow.
And it's true, right? Like when we do
Yeah.
mind, that's one of the things. Eat like you eat something that your grandmother or your great grandmother would recognize as food,
Yes.
you know? Um, and that's what she did. I want fish, and she'd get breaded fish, and she'd be like, this does not look like any fish I've ever seen.
Therefore,
Therefore, this
it's
looks
not
like
going into my body.
that. Right.
Oh god, I
You
love that. I love
Yeah,
that so much, and
when
oh
I
my
got
gosh.
when I got pregnant, um, 12 women had just like given birth from the center. There were like 50 something.
Oh my
12
god.
have given birth. And I just got pregnant, right? And when they all found out, and they could tell very, very soon because I was very sick, they were like, and yet, who told you that women get pregnant in the dry season?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh,
What?
was from the heat as well. It was so hot.
Yeah.
It was extremely hot, and I could
Yeah.
barely function at all.
Mm.
And mm, and I was like, there's a season?
Oh, thank God. Somebody told me now.
You know, but all the things that you learn, but the thing is when you're open to all that you can learn, it's like we have a lot to learn, and that's how we find out how everyone, like everyone is bringing something, teaching something,
Mm,
and how we'll grow. And actually, I've been thinking about here, the US, and I used to hear it a lot, like all these movies, America's the greatest nation in the world,
mm,
greatest, the greatest, all of that stuff. And as a kid, also, I used to be like, that's interesting,
yeah,
right? Who made that declaration? Like, it's an
yeah,
interesting, but
mhm,
it's interesting and it's good, but also really bad,
yeah.
right? Because it takes people's curiosity away
Mm,
for other nations and other wisdom and other cultures
yeah,
and other experiences, and so a lot of people, I mean, because my dad was a diplomat, I traveled a lot. So I have many different experiences, but it's like here, sometimes you have our community here in the US, knows about the US, but other people know about the US plus their country plus many others,
mm,
right? So the wisdom of all is like present,
mm,
and it's important. Not all, but more than just here, and
yeah,
more than you think, and more than just what you believe in.
yeah,
So it's like we need to learn how wonderful and inherently beautiful and wise everybody is, and that I think collectively we're like a giant puzzle.
yeah.
Humanity,
Oh, I love that.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
if
think it's
we're
true.
able to fit in
Yeah,
and and where all the holes are
yeah,
in all our cultures, we can never we won't be able to make it. And it's getting and it's like human rights. It's like human rights. Human rights, the human condition doesn't just stay the same. And this is where the UN comes in, right? The UN did a lot of good.
yeah,
It fed a lot of people. It provided a lot of healthcare.
mm,
It provided a lot of education for children. It provided refuge for refugees, people, running away from wars or natural disasters, internally and out of their own countries.
mm,
But saved billions of people over 80 years. But it also created other things. It created dependency. It created also the problem with providing a lot for so many people is that the UN didn't try to help, you know, like if you have refugees in a camp, there are too many limitations that keep them just as refugees. That's
right.
what we work with refugees. We work with refugees to give them um, tools to make beads so that they can actually improve their lives. Otherwise, they're just stagnant. You're not allowed to work. You're not allowed to leave the camp,
Mm,
right? And in this day and age, wars are going on for decades,
yeah,
right? Like the Sudan war rather, went on for 20 years, 21 years,
yeah,
right? You're talking about a generation.
yeah,
People and other wars even longer now, right? So you have multiple generations and people just living there,
yeah,
and it's increasing, right? Like a camp in Juba in South Sudan had, I don't know, like 2,000 refugees from Uganda. The war in Sudan started up again 2 years ago, and suddenly there's an increase of 22,000 people in South
mm,
Sudan, a
yeah,
country that doesn't have, right? So this migration is a global problem. It's not a US problem. It's a global problem
yeah,
because we I'm not saying the UN. The UN, the interesting thing about the UN is it's everyone and it's no one,
Oh my God, I love it. You're right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
And and so it's us as well, right?
Yeah.
It's like the conditions in this world are are global in every country, global. There are millions of people running from one for one reason or another all over the place. And they
Mhm.
land great nations like the US or terrible nations like South Sudan or, I mean, look what happened in Madagascar. They just got plummeted with a hurricane that just plummeted my village just now. So we're just
Mhm.
learning the attacks, I mean, of the fallout from the cyclone just
Yeah.
a few years ago, but this is the state of the world, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and also I was talking with someone talking about us, the people, we the people,
Yeah.
right? And I was just looking outside and the because we're in downtown and seeing all the protests and abolish ICE and people going up and down and all this effort and
Mhm.
all, don't go here, don't go there, don't support this group and don't support that group. And then the Epstein files, and it's just looking like everything is a big, ginormous, jumbled mess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're at a time when it's hard to pinpoint where things went wrong and how to rectify them and how far they go, right? But I was thinking particularly immigration process and issue really, and how we're little people. We are the little people.
Yes.
We're the little people because by the time we come face to face with the immigration issues, it's too late.
Yeah.
It's not the beginning of the problem to say we don't want people to come in or people should come in.
Right.
The problem has existed. And actually, well, not we, but the bigger leadership has sustained it. You know,
Mhm.
Africa is a nation, it's not a nation. Africa is a continent, has people moving this way and that way.
Yeah.
The problem in Africa stem from the West, from the
Yeah.
colonization, from the policies, from the support from the UN that keeps people dependent and keeps people stagnant.
Mm.
When USAID cut its funding, or not stopped, basically stopped, it hurt people, but most people were like, should give us an opportunity to stand up for
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
But the problem is we also have a leadership crisis in Africa,
Right.
and it's the same. And so it's like we, the people, protest. No, it should be like this. No, it should be like that. But we are not, we're just here,
Yeah.
busy for ourselves, when really on the higher level, the conditions are created to make people run here and there for a better life, you know?
Yeah.
And, we need to ask ourselves, or the UN needs to ask itself, whoever it is,
The we and the no
the
one and
we,
the every
no one and everyone,
no one and the everyone. Yeah.
know, if
Mhm.
we try and address the problems that we're dealing with in the world, is it going to take away our jobs, or is it going to create new ones, or is it going to create something completely new? And it's
Yeah.
not just gonna be about job and no job, you
Right.
know? That's what I think anyway.
I love those thoughts, every one of them. Every one of them. I think you're a genius just saying, and which is why I love to talk with you about these things. And so I think just some parting thoughts for everyone about, my curiosity about leadership and about power. And I really love what you said about power and everybody has it and how are we going to apply it. Um, but yeah, do you have some closing thoughts for folks and Yeah, thank you. Thank you to Sunny and Nam and Charlie and Martine and Joe. Thank you, everyone who's joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening and being with us.
Mm.
Um, Parting thoughts. Yeah, just that, let's love each other, be compassionate for each other,
Yeah.
even not true. What we, you know, what allowances we give to people for certain action, even if it's not true, because it's also not necessarily true when we think bad about somebody.
Mm.
So do we bring love into it? How do we use our power every day, to also disrupt another person who's about to misuse their power?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's great.
we can do that, you know, and we're not done. We have so much to learn from each other.
Yeah.
We need this puzzle together so we can see what humanity really looks like. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, thank you, Shar.
Thank you so much. It's so amazing. And yes, I cherish you. And yes, I look forward to having another conversation soon.
Yeah,
Mm.
thank you.
Mhm. Good night.
You. Good night. You everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Mm.